Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of the concert version of Vincenzo Bellini's I Capuleti e Montecchi, which had its premiere tonight at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, and this also marks the third Bellini opera I have seen live on stage. On the podium was Maestro Paolo Arrivabenni, and the chorus master was William Spaulding. Now, there is a sort of interesting history with Bellini's I Capuleti e Montecchi. 5 years before this was composed in 1830, there was yet another operatic version composed by Nicola Vaccai that was named Giulietta e Romeo. Both of these operas were based on not only the original source material of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but also the adaptation done by Luigi Scelva known as Giulietta e Romeo. Now, this opera in particular had its revival in 1935 until it had its full premiere in Palermo in 1954, starring Giulietta Simeonato and Rossana Carteri as the tragic heroes. And I'm sure we all know the tragic story of our star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet. This has become very popular in not only pop culture in general, but also in music, as there was not only the opera versions done by Nicola Vaccai, Vincenzo Bellini, and also that of Charles Gounod, but also an opera version done by Prokofiev. And this has also had a lot of film adaptations throughout many, many years, and even had a lot of reworkings on stage. It even had a Broadway adaptation in the form of West Side Story. Wherever you find any adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, if you feel like you've watched one, you feel like you've watched a lot of them. But with this particular version of Romeo and Juliet, they basically cut away the other characters like Mercutio, the Duke of Verona, Benvolio, and Paris, and the nurse, and basically mainly included the star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet, Tybalt, known in Italian as Tebaldo, the father, Capulet, known as Capello, and brother Lawrence, known in Italian as Fra Lorenzo. And this opera especially was a huge vehicle for a lot of lyric mezzos singing the part of Romeo, and a lot of lyric coloratura sopranos singing the role of Giulietta. So even though this opera wasn't really as popular as compared to the likes of Norma, I Puritani, and Sonnambula, which were pretty much the biggest operas that Bellini has ever composed and has found a huge amount of fame, this opera in particular has enjoyed its successes in terms of the two main leads. Now that it's out of the way, let's get on to what I thought about the singers and the conducting, since this is only a concert version. Now, the main reason why I wanted to see this concert version was because I wanted to see the ever fabulous American coloratura mezzo Joyce DiDonato. At first, I was rather excited about this because this is the first time I get to see someone as wonderful, someone as charismatic as Madame DiDonato perform live on stage. Yet I was also quite doubtful because since she is a huge name, aside from the likes of Venera Gimadieva and Tereso Albello, I was kind of afraid it was going to be sold out. Well, it was my lucky night, and I was able to see all these fine singers do their thing. Starting off with Joyce DiDonato performing the role of Romeo. Now, before I start going into my opinions about Madame DiDonato, of how she was able to perform that role, with Romeo, you really need a mezzo-soprano, specifically a lyric coloratura mezzo-soprano who can be able to navigate the low notes, the middle notes, and even the high notes with such fine acting chops. Any mezzo who has the rapid-fire agility of an Angelina from Cenerentola, Isabella from L'Italiana in Algeri, Isolier from Le Comptoir, or even that of the mezzo version of Rosina from Barbiere di Siviglia, and someone who has the looks of a Sesto from both Clemente di Tito and Hende's Giulio Cesare, and even Ramiro from La Finta Giardiniera, and even the plush lyrical singing of a Malika from Lakme, and the Third Lady from Magic Flute. You basically really need a singer who can be able to navigate all of the technical difficulties of this role, and someone who can be able to portray this tragic hero very well. This has become quite a challenge for a lot of coloratura mezzos and lyric mezzos. And as I said before, I was really excited to see Madame Di Donato perform this role. And boy, she has performed this role for many years, and I can safely say that she did fabulously. It's no wonder why she was acclaimed in this role. Heck, she was even acclaimed for the likes of other trouser roles like Octavian from Golden Cavalier, the composer from Ariadne auf Naxos, and the Sesto from Clemente di Tito, and even a lot of the coloratura mezzo roles like Rosina, Angelina, and Elena from La Donna di Lago. So, hearing her and seeing her live, I was totally blown away. This performer really had it in her. She had the acting skills. She had the voice. She had the temperament. She had the mannerisms, the nuances, everything. She let everything in and let everything out with such pizzazz, with such life, and with such a multi-dimensionality that I was practically taken in. I was practically immersed in her portrayal. I believed everything that she did. When she was full of joy, I felt her joy. When she was full of sadness, I felt that sadness. Nothing was overdone. Nothing was hammy. I absolutely enjoyed everything that Madame Di Donato really gave out. And she was also a very fine coloratura mezzo that I've been also looking up to, aside from the likes of Cecilia Bartoli and Teresa Berganza and Lucia Valentini Terrani. She was excellent, as to be expected. She had one of the highest caliber of singing ever, and I was extremely immersed from beginning to end. And in fact, she pretty much carried the weight of the entire program. And believe me, this is not an easy thing to do. I mean, if I were in her position, I would have been a total wreck, just like that. But the fact that she managed to muscle through and give out all the strength, the beauty, the intimacy, the courage, and just the overall wonderful aspects of this character and all the dimensions, all the nuances, she was able to really make it her own, and she was able to find different colors, which made me feel so excited for her all the time. Singing the role of his lover, Giulietta, was the wonderful Russian lyric coloratura soprano Venera Gimadieva. Now, the thing about Giulietta is that this role has attracted a lot of lyric coloratura sopranos, dramatic coloratura sopranos, and even the light lyric sopranos. Now, the thing about Giulietta is that this is also a challenging role as well. You basically need to combine the rapid-fire agility and blazing high notes of that of a Lacme, Zerbinetta, Fiaccarmilli, Aminta from The Silent Woman by Richard Strauss, Adele from Fledermaus, and also that of Le Comte, Rosina from the soprano version of Barbiere di Siviglia, Lucia Ashton from, of course, Lucia de la Mermour, and Urbain from Les Huguenots, Dinora from Dinora, and let's see, and even the lyrical lines of that of Agilda from Rigoletto, the sparks of Oscar from Un ballo in Maschera, and even the pathos of a Pamina from Zauberflöte, and even that of Elia from Idomeneo. I thought that Miss Gimadieva did excellently in this role. First of all, she looked the part. which was rather essential, especially to portray a young girl like Giulietta. She was able to also give such fine, silvery tones, and when she sang pianissimo, she sang it with such a heavenly manner, and she was able to give off such fine, silvery tones which poured out of her mouth and out of her body like cascades and cascades of pearls and rubies and all sorts of wonderful jewels. Every time I listened to her sing, it was just pure heaven. She navigated her role really well, making sure to give off such fine techniques, fine acting, and fine portrayals of this character. She was able to really navigate very well, and her chemistry with Madame Di Donato was excellent. I totally bought them as the star-crossed lovers. And aside from Madame Di Donato, she was also another huge star in the evening, singing the role of Romeo's rival, Tebaldo, or in English, Tybalt, was the wonderful Spanish late lyric tenor Celso Albello. The thing about Tebaldo is that you really need a light lyric tenor who can be able to navigate all of the high notes, especially to be expected from bel canto. Any tenor who has sung the likes of Pedrillo or Belmonte, Don Ottavio, Tamino, the Duke from Rigoletto, Alfred from Fledermaus, Elema from Arabella, Almaviva from Barbiere di Siviglia, Lindoro from Italiana in Algeri, Ramiro from Cenerentola, and even Le Comptory from Lori, and Gerald from Lacme, and even a lot of the different roles for a light lyric tenor. Every tenor, almost any tenor who has sung in the light lyric tenor repertoire, or even in the full lyric tenor repertoire, have all flocked to sing this rather thankless character. I say thankless because, his character, well, let's just say that he constantly has to have a good amount of chemistry with everyone on stage. He needs to have also a great amount of acting as well, and his chemistry with Romeo as rivals should be believable. And with Celso Albello, I really enjoyed him as Tebaldo. I first heard Celso Albello ever since I was about 17 years old on YouTube, seeing clips of him singing the Duke from Rigoletto, specifically with the cabaletta Possente Amor Mi Chiama, in which he sings an electrifying high D. In fact, this tenor is extremely well known for his limpid and clear high notes, and I thought he did fabulously. He has a very fine stentorian sound, and his singing was that of the highest caliber. He really sang his heart out in this character. He did a fabulous job, especially in his first act aria, and he was just great overall. He was in his element when he sang this role, which is no surprise because Signore Albello was very well known and is still very well known in singing a lot of the bel canto and even the French repertoire, which he's very well known for internationally. So he was able to use that experience that he had in those repertoires and really transfer it into this character, singing the roles of Padre Lorenzo and Signore Capello are the bassos Marco Mimica and Alexei Botnarchuk. The thing about these two characters is that you really need a couple of basso cantantes who have plush and really sonorous sounds to be able to do these really thankless roles some justice. Think of any basso who has sung the likes of, Don Giovanni and Leporello, and even the likes of Hans Sachs and Veit Pogner, Dalland and the Dutchman, Hunding and Wotan, and a lot of other roles which requires two very fine bassos to sing. Now, I thought that with Marco Mimiza as Padre Lorenzo, I thought he was able to give such a fine portrayal of a noble, noble father figure. He has a very plush tone, and it's really fantastic seeing him grow further as a basso. He continues to give fine and really, really wonderful tones as this wonderful character role. And then we have the role of Signore Capello, sung by Alexei Botnarchuk. He continues to amaze me. He's rather young, but he shows such wonderful promise. He was able to have such a great stage presence, and his voice shone brilliantly. I really have to say that the caliber of singing tonight was excellent. However, if there was one minor nitpick, even though it's not as bad, I really wanted to hear a lot more interpolated high notes. I know that rather sounds rather crazy of me, but come on, this is bel canto. Usually when people think bel canto, they would usually think lots of interpolated high notes, lots of singers really going out there and singing lots of D's, E's, F's, C's, B flats, B's. I know I probably would have loved to hear Gimadieva interpolate an E for her closing for the Morte Io non temo aria. I probably would have loved to hear her do a lot more ornamentations with her O quante volte. I probably would have loved to hear Joyce Di Donato and Vincenzo Bellini really ring it out with a B flat. But you know what? I have to say one thing. Despite me constantly expecting those high notes to come out, I just have to say that despite that, I felt that they were true, honest performers who gave their all, who really, really did fabulous jobs, and most of all, were honest singers. They let everything out beautifully, gracefully, and just with the right amount of temperament, emotion, heart, soul, body, mind, and they let everything out, which was definitely a great collaborative effort from all the singers, especially with Joyce Di Donato and Venera Gimadieva as the star-crossed lovers. I really have to say kudos to the both of you. You did fabulously. I bought you two as the main couple. I was totally immersed. I was absolutely excited to see you both on stage. And you know what? I have to say that I am eternally grateful, especially to the likes of Senor Celso Albello, Monsieur Marco Mimiza, and Monsieur Alexei Botnarchuk. I am eternally grateful to really see you guys really perform to the best of your abilities and really, really give such wonderful performances for each of these characters. And the conducting done by Maestro Arrivabenni was solid all throughout, and the chorus was also excellent. What more can you expect from the chorus of the Deutsche Oper Berlin? So overall, I really have to say that this premiere was wonderful. Another thing I would have loved to see this opera, or basically this performance do, was also not necessarily be a concert version, but a full staged version. I probably would have loved to see that as well, because let's face it, my personal experience with I Capuleti e Montecchi, even though I should have mentioned this before, was only limited to Giulietta's romanza, starting with Eccomi in quel lieto, and then leads to the wonderful romanza O quante volte. It was basically limited to only that. But when I saw this opera live, I knew for a fact that this opera probably should have been a full staged version, not just a concert version. But who knows, maybe in the near future, this opera will be fully staged with all the fine scenery, all the fine costumes, all the fine props, and this and that, aside from just wonderful singing. And I know I hate sounding like a broken record, but kudos, especially to Joyce Di Donato and Venera Gimadieva. You two were the stars, and I really wish to see a lot more of you in the near future. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in for some more reviews. So until then, good night, everybody.